hear me? No? You can hear me, right? Mary Jo's just pulling my chops. I appreciate you using my Christian name, because I think whenever else I come to do anything at the school, I'm always introduced as Brien Leahy's husband. I'm going to be talking kind of at a higher level today. I mean, we're not going to do a deep dive on everything, but I did want to just talk a little bit about what the School Advisory Board is, kind of what our role is, how we work in with the school and with Allie and the faculty and all. I think one of the things that helped me was to try and figure out exactly where does the school fit in terms of the overall organization. So if I look at St. Gilbert Parish as being a company, then St. Gilbert School would be a business unit within that company, okay? Father Gene is the CEO of the company. Allie's the president of that business unit. And then the advisory board is there to kind of lend our talents and experiences to kind of give them some help, kind of be advisory is really what it's about. We need to remember that a school board in a Catholic school is much different from the school board in a public school. In a public school, the citizens elect school board members so that they can watch over the tax dollars being spent. So in a certain regard, the superintendent and the principals kind of work for the school board. Well, in Catholic schools, it's absolutely the opposite. We're here to work for Mrs. O'Connor and Father Gene and do whatever we can do to help move the school forward. We have nothing to do with curriculum. We have nothing to do with personnel decisions. Those are outside of our realm. I'll talk a little bit about what is in our realm. We have 7 school board members. They're elected by the parish of St. Gilbert because we do not just represent the parents, we represent the whole parish because, again, the school is part of the parish. And we have some of our school board members here today. We've got Danette Monahan is here, and Ann Subry is here, and Mark Brinkman's back there, and Heather Peachman, and Stacy O'Brien. I don't know if Stacy is here. Heather couldn't make it, and Lisa Delamar. I didn't see Lisa either. So those are our 7 members, and Beth Schwab is our recording secretary, keeps track of everything that we say. I go back to, why do we need advisory board then? We're kind of there to help gather volunteers to help out with whatever Allie needs us to do. Most of the work that we do is done through committees. So one of the committees is run by Danette, which is the marketing committee. So anytime you see St. Gilbert School and Trib Local, that's because of Danette and her committee is all made up of parents at the school. Because Trib Local doesn't just print things, you got to send it to them, right? You got to work NPR, you've got to gather the information from the Gazette or from, whatever's going on in the different school or the different projects in the classroom, and send it out to the press so they can post it out there. So that's what the marketing department or the marketing committee does. They also work on just general marketing for the school. So when it comes to creating a brochure for the school that we can use, when it comes to maybe some ads that we might place in order to generate some interest in the school. We've worked on, with the parish's grounds committee to talk about maybe doing another sign out front that we could use for a little bit more marketing. Those are all the types of things that the marketing committee works on. Technology committee is another committee here at the school. And I think, and Mark was involved much longer than I've been involved, but I think it was essentially started when we wanted to continue expanding our investment in technology. And it was getting a group of parent volunteers together to wire the school. Because you don't just bring a computer in and plug it into the wall. Somebody first has to run all that wiring. And we aren't going to pay to have somebody do that. We get parent volunteers to help out. So the parents wired the school. We get the computers every year. We take the computers out. We install them. We check them. We make sure they work well. At the end of the year, we pick them all up and haul them away and keep them safe. That the technology committee will work on doing the smart boards in the rooms, doing some of the wireless that we have. So anything that has to do with technology, essentially what we're doing then is we're gathering a group of parents who have an interest in technology, and most of the parents that we have are in the technology field. And then they can come and they help Lisa Kleber and whatever Allie's vision is for the technology for the school, and we try and get it implemented. Another committee that we have is the legislative liaison. So Stacy O'Brien keeps us all up to date on what's going on with all governmental bodies, whether it's the state of Illinois that's passing a law or something local or federal. If there's something that the Archdiocese wants our parents parents to know, it comes down from the Archdiocese sends it to Stacy, Stacy sends it to the school board, we try and get the information out to the parents so that we can all stay up to date on different legislation that might be impacting the school. Development is set up to kind of build our relationships with the alumni and other constituencies. Eventually that could turn into raising some additional funds for the school. But right now we just want to kind of reach back out to our alumni and remind them that we're here. And remind them that, St. Gilbert School is still rocking and rolling, and we'd love to have them participate in any way they might want to. We also have a committee that focuses on goals and policies. So goals, make sure that we do what we're supposed to do for the year, because we set goals at the start of every year. And then policy would be to take a look at the school policy on an annual basis. If we want to make a change with, whatever you might say, the uniform policy, if we want to change uniforms, for example. We'd kind of form a committee through the school advisory board to look into that matter and see what we might want to come up with. It's kind of what the school advisory board is doing. I encourage you all to come to our meetings. They're open to the public. They're in this room, third Tuesday of every month. I think it is, right? I always forget because it's not on the computer, except for this month because it's Holy Week. They're at 7 o'clock and they're open, so feel free to stop on by. The biggest role I think that we have, or the biggest project that we have on an annual basis, has to do with the finance committee, and Mark runs our finance committee, and we help put the budget together. So I'm not going to go into the whole budget today. We don't really have enough time to get into all the detail. But I think it's important for you to have an understanding of where does the numbers come from and where, kind of how we derive the budget. So the budget process is a really simple process. Mrs. O'Connor starts out taking a look at the budget, kind of comes up with, based on last year's budget and next year's projected enrollment, kind of where we think we might be. She works with Mark to put the spreadsheets together and come up with a simple budget. Bring it to the school advisory board, we talk about it, say yes, everything looks good, we offer some input if we think there might be ways that we could shave some expenses here and there. Then Mrs. O'Connor sits down with the business manager of the parish, who then sends it to Father Gene, who then takes it to the parish finance committee, who then sends it down to the Archdiocese, and then we get it back to us. So that's the whole process that we need to go through before we can tell the parents what the tuition is going to be for the next year. So I know one of the concerns that parents have is, I need to know what tuition is going to be next year before I can tell you whether or not I'm coming back to the school. And I can't tell you what your tuition is going to be before I know how many parents are coming back to the school. It's one of those crazy circular arguments. But we need to know how many students we're going to have, because that's the big driver of our expenses, obviously. So that's why it's so important that when we send those surveys out and we ask you if you're coming back to the school, it's vitally important that we get them back as soon as possible so we can start that process as soon as possible, so we can tell you what the tuition rate is going to be for next year. I can tell you that we got our budget done, thanks to Mrs. O'Connor and Mark, much quicker than I think most schools in the diocese. So I think you all knew what your tuition was going to be. There might be some parents out there that still don't know what their tuition is going to be, because you need to get in early if you want to get your approvals back. Like I said, key drivers to the tuition is going to be the enrollment, and it's going to be expenses, right? Pretty simple. Our biggest expense at the school, not surprisingly, is personnel expense. Okay? I mean, it's a service business essentially. Like my business in banking, it's a service business. People is the biggest expense. Now, what's important to realize for us then, is we're trying to set our budget for the year, is that we really don't have control over our personnel expenses. The salary scale that we use is set by the Archdiocese of Chicago, so we follow that salary scale. It called for a 2% increase, I want to say, this year, so we're going to have a 2% increase this year. Now, when you think about that, and I know a lot of parents might say, and I think about it myself, we didn't do much raises at work this year. Should we really be giving any raises? Well, it's my understanding that it was either last year or the year before, we didn't have any raises for the teachers. And I think the other thing that's really important for everybody to remember, and never ever forget, that teaching in a Catholic school is a calling. I looked up what the average teacher makes in the District 46. Our teachers here make $20,000 a year on average, less than what the public school teachers make. So, that 2% increase is not really a place that we're looking to make any cuts there. Another major expense that we have is healthcare expense. Our healthcare expense this year went up 9%. I think last year it went up 20%. Uncontrollable. There's nothing we can do about our healthcare expense. It's just going to keep going up The same with all of our healthcare expense. I know my insurance went up. So we don't have any control over that expense. We have control over our operational expenses, paper, supplies, and things like that. We held that flat. So that line item stayed flat for the year. On the revenue side, we generate about $70,000 a year through donations from various organizations like Family School and other organizations here at the parish. Box tops help with that, and just straight out contributions that people give to the school. The parish provides a $160,000 subsidy to help subsidize the school. And I think anybody that knows what the numbers might have been, that number's down a little bit from where it has been in the past. But I think if you take a look at the bulletin every week, you'll see that our collections are down a little bit as well. So again, when we talk in the student handbook and we talk to the parents about being active parishioners within the parish, attending mass and whatnot, it's because we need to give back to the parish so the parish can give back to the school. Can anybody guess what our number one revenue item is for the school then? Tuition. Yeah, 90% comes from tuition and fees, which means 90% comes from everybody sitting in this room. Now, we were able to cover the increases in expenses that we had through a 2.5% tuition increase for this year. I know tuition increases right now, again with the economy being so tight, are difficult. But the average for our council, which is the schools in our area, was 3%. So we thought we did a pretty good job by keeping our expenses, or our increases, below where everybody else was going to be. And the one major expense that we cut is with kindergarten and first grade both having 2 classes, then you're going to see next year, second grade, you can start consolidating. And so we were able to save some money there. That was about the only type of decision that we can make to really save much money. So again, a lot of what the budget is a little bit out of our control. But we try very hard to watch your money as carefully as we can to make sure that we continue giving the biggest bang for our buck out of the budget. And that's about it with the budget. I want to give you a little quick update on what the process is, where it goes.